that, man.
Yes,
I gotta love that. All right, we're gonna bring this meeting back to order.
Welcome to the Queen Anne's County Commissioners Meeting. This is a public meeting that is being aired live on our local cable television station, QACTV 7. These media broadcasts provide county citizens an opportunity to watch and review our scheduled public meetings. In addition to our live audience this evening, we are providing remote options for citizens to watch and participate in county commissioner meetings. Citizens may watch our meeting live on our website at qac.org/live or our television channel, Breezeline Channel 7 and PEG 01. Citizens may also participate by joining the live Zoom meeting by going to qac.org/public comment. Citizens may also email comments to publiccomment@qac.org. Comments received will be summarized during the press and public comment period on this evening's agenda. We acknowledge everyone's participation, and by attending, you acknowledge that this session is both recorded and re-aired. Press and public comment will be taken and is limited to 3 minutes per person. If you do care to speak, please sign up at the information table in the lobby. Comments longer than 3 minutes can be submitted in writing for the Commissioner's review. We will now stand and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Commission President Jim Moran.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you could please remain standing for a moment of silence for Matt Cole, husband, father, businessman, and a pillar of the community. We will miss you. Thank you very much.
Okay. That brings us to the approval of this evening's agenda. So our agenda for tonight's meeting, July the 9th, along with the regular session minutes, the closed session minutes, and the Roads Board and Sanitary Commission minutes from the July 25th meeting have all been circulated for review. Do we have any additions or corrections?
Make a motion to accept the agenda as submitted and all the minutes as submitted.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. So we just held a closed session under the General Provisions Article Section 3305B1 to discuss boards and commissions, and I believe we have a couple of appointments to make.
We'll start with the Housing Authority. I move to reappoint Mike Ernst to fill out the vacancy on the Housing Authority. The term will expire June 30, 2029.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this item. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
I move to appoint Dina Lewis, Michael McGrew, Michael Murphy, and Janet Salazar to the Local Management Board. These terms will expire on June 30th, 2027.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Before we go forward, I just want to mention that Commissioner Patrick McLaughlin and Commissioner Chris Corcarino are on assignment.
But they are here with us.
They are.
Via Zoom.
Big screen.
Via Zoom.
Yes, they are here with us tonight on the
So
Zoom
thank
screen,
you
so-
both for your sacrifice.
All righty. They need to change their backdrop now.
All right, that brings us to our first press and public comment period. So we appreciate all citizens for taking time to express views to the county commissioners. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments longer than 3 minutes can be submitted in writing. This commission respects your desire and right to convey your message freely. When you come forward, please speak clearly at our standing microphone, state your name, your address, and your topic of interest. And in keeping with the dignity of our office, we ask that all views be expressed in a respectful and civil manner.
Mr. Craig Wickesser.
Good evening.
Evening.
Hi. Again, my name is Craig Wickesser. I'm here to talk about the community that's proposed for Chester Haven Beach. I moved here in 2018 in the Gibson's Grant, which is right adjacent to it. once I moved here, I realized that I became part of the problem, meaning the amount of people and traffic and all on Ken Island. Can I ask if anyone here lives on Ken Island? No, just us, okay. Well, I can tell you that.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Oh, okay. Well, then you know that the traffic obviously is bad. 16-mile backup, westbound on Sunday, 16-mile backup on Saturday. They try closing the ramps and what have you. What I'm getting at is the proposed community next to us. And I've read where they've downgraded the 180 lots to 90 lots that Mr. Brown wants to build. And I'm sure it would be nice, and actually it would probably enhance the value of our neighborhood, because I'm sure they would, build quality. But I guess what I'm asking is, can't this be delayed until the appropriate traffic or the means or the infrastructure is built to accommodate more and more traffic? And again, since I've been here, like I said, our community is 280 houses, Four Seasons, about 1,000 houses. Across the street from our community they're going to build a storage unit right on Piney Creek, which is the same street, and right across the entrance to Mr. Brown's property. You got, it was approved for down by Libby's, the condos that were built, or being built, and the business below that. And I know you look at water allocation, sewer allocation, and traffic and all that, but it looks like this project is moving forward each time I read the news. And I guess, again, is all this taken into consideration? The traffic is a big part of it. And of course, the noise, we get all kind of noise, 150 and all now. But why make it worse? Why approve something today that makes life worse for those who live on or travel through Ken Island? Shouldn't the infrastructure, the means to handle all this be in place before it's approved? And I'm sure I'm forgetting something else. I guess that was my time.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. That was a pretty good time.
Jay Falstead?
Good evening, Commissioners. Jay Falstead, Queen Anne's Conservation Association. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Earlier today, I sent you all a memo that raised some issues on why we believe that you should reject this request on behalf of Chester Haven Beach. And I just want to, I'm not going to repeat everything that's in that memo, but I just do want to go back in history for a moment. 2 years ago, this board voted 4-1 to ask the applicant to go back and get a declaratory judgment on whether or not all these lots exist. Here we are 2 years later. That effort was never undertaken. And so I recognize that the applicant is saying that because no controversy exists, at least in his mind, that he can't go and seek a declaratory judgment action. We disagree with that. We think that there is a controversy that is screaming in everybody's face, supported by the Queen Anne's County Board of Appeals decision, supported by 2 courts that evaluated this, and more recently, the Maryland Critical Area Commission that says that those lots are not lawfully recorded. So, right now, what the applicant is attempting to do is use you guys, the commissioners, as sort of cover in lending credibility to a development that he may not be entitled to. And all I'm asking you to do, I think, especially since we don't have a full complement of commissioners tonight, is to maybe tap the brakes.
They're all here, all 5 of us.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that. Sorry. But I would still urge you to tap the brakes, meet with some of the people that have concerns about this, namely the nonprofit organizations that I think are concerned about the action that might be taking place here, and to just hold off a little bit. There's no downside in doing that. There's no urgency in passing this tonight or even a month from now, but at least gather more facts and information before the county starts going in this direction. I'm sure you'll hear tonight, the residents on Kent Island are frustrated with the fact that the island is being overbuilt and overdeveloped. Traffic, we all hear it every day. And so for those reasons, along with the others already articulated in my memo sent earlier today, I hope that you'll just really take a breath and let's evaluate this to make sure that we're making the right decision on the part of all of the county and all of the citizens that you all represent. So thank you for your time, thank you for your service, and that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm sorry, but I can't read this one. Is it a Mark? My apologies.
Good evening. I'm Mark Rivers, and I live on Kent Island, and I got to echo what everybody else is talking about. We, on weekends, especially on Sunday, we're captive to stay on the island because if you go on the East Coast, the West Coast, you're stuck, and if you go towards Ocean City, you're stuck in traffic. So we deal with that because we love living in Queen Anne's County, and we like being on the island. But we're very, I'm reading about a proposed development, 180 lots. And I just feel because of years away from a new bridge, and we're going to have a lot of traffic, and I really believe there should be a moratorium on any more new developments because of the amount of, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the highways, we don't have, the back roads are full out-of-towners, and they're making some strides by closing exits, and we do appreciate that. It is cumbersome for people that live here, but in the long run, I think it's helped. But I just want to relate to what a lot of people I've been talking to saying that live here, that more development right now is not what really we need. We need to have a blueprint for the future to get around these problems of the highways and again, push the bridge project. It has to happen eventually because it's just getting really tough. I appreciate for your time and listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Upke?
Thank you. My name is Chris Pupke, resident here in Queen Anne's County, past president of the Queen Anne's Conservation Association, and I've been party to litigation on Chester Haven Beach over the years. And I'm urging you to say no to CRR 05. The people of Queen Anne's County said no to this resolution, this situation in the comp plan in 2022, and the basic facts of the situation and the property have not changed. The owner's argument for 180 lots is meritless. That is according to the Queen Anne's County Board of Appeals, the Queen Anne's County Circuit Court, and the Maryland Court of Special Appeals, all in legal rulings delivered over the last 30 years. The Maryland Critical Area Commission also agrees. I urge you to turn down this request. Do not put the interest of one person ahead of the people of Kent Island and Queen Anne's County. Do not waste taxpayers' dollars in pursuit of something that the judiciary says does not exist. Follow the rule of law. Say no. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Zetterstrom?
Good evening. My name is Scott Zetterstrom. I'm a resident of the Gibson Grant community over on Kent Island. I have a question. It really, I don't have a, well, the question basically is the things that I have read, the things that I've heard here and in other places gave me the impression that the sewage and water allocations for the Kent Island area had been consumed. There was no more allocation available for development, and perhaps that's wrong, but if someone could provide an answer to this, because this now seems to be a project that was gone, the Chester Haven Beach was a project that was denied and then is coming back, and so that's another drain on that allocation. And so my question really is, where are we with this allocation? Do we have extra sewage and water allocation? Are we out of?
That project already had sewer allocation.
I thought that it had been reduced when
No,
it had not.
no.
so do we have enough for more?
They already have their allocation.
Is there more allocation
They
for
had
more
an
development?
allocation for 186, 187 homes. They've turned in all but 90 of that allocation, 90 homes.
Okay, so there's 90 left for more development on Kent Island? Is that what, is that?
No, not necessarily, no. Just
Okay.
in reference to this project, you wanted to know allocation-wise, what are we down to?
It's
Like,
22,500 was
Thank you.
given back.
yeah, 22,500 is what we have left in the bank.
For Queen Anne's County?
Correct.
Well, just for the Terrapin Island sewer plant.
Okay,
basically.
for that,
Yeah,
okay.
Not for all of Queen Anne's County.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. That's all I had who signed up. Would anybody else like to speak? Seeing none, we'll close press and public comment.
Do you have a couple? We have a
Oh, I'm
couple.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Read this now.
Okay, our first email is going to come from Kathy Haney. Dear County Commissioners, I am writing in to express my strong opposition to the proposed development in the critical area next to Gibson's Grant, Chester Haven Beach proposal. How can anyone think that this development is a good idea? Even one lot being built on this parcel is going to disrupt the environment and damage the ecosystem that we should cherish on what's left of the island where I grew up. I'm a lifelong resident of Kent Island. My husband and I are also business owners here. My family goes back generations on the island. My grandfather, Harry Clifton Lowe Sr., started Lowe's Bayshore Nursery in Stevensville in the 70s. I grew up here in the 80s, about a quarter-mile south of where I live now on Love Point Road. This was an amazing, beautiful rural island back then, abundant with wildlife, farmland, and good people. I have witnessed the heartbreaking changes take place as one development after another is slapped into an infrastructure that cannot support the traffic and the population as it is now. If this parcel gets developed, the wildlife that lives there will either be killed by equipment, killed by being pushed into Route 50, not to mention endangering the lives of the drivers when this happens, or pushed into Gibson's Grant or other neighboring communities. Then the residents will complain about the nuisance wildlife that has been here longer than any of us have, and the wildlife will be killed by the hands of humans for simply trying to find new territory. I'm a licensed Maryland State wildlife rehabilitator, and I already see this every day. I've walked the beach at this location many times. I see turtle nests, shorebirds, fish, and other wildlife here. You're killing it all with this development and the pollution and the habitat loss that comes with it. We are on the island, for God's sakes. There's nowhere on the wildlife to go. If any of you are in favor of this, my decision will be easy to decide who not to vote for come election time. If you are for the cruel killing of wildlife that calls this island home, you will not get my vote. If you are for adding to the already existing traffic gridlock on the island, you will not get my vote. If you are in favor of destroying my beautiful island to line developers' pockets, you will not get my vote. If you are in favor of adding any more housing developments to this island, you will not get my vote. In short, if you are in favor of this proposed development, you will not get my vote. Sincerely, Kathy Haney. Our next email comes from Joe Best. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I live in Gibson's Grant and am looking to you to do the right thing and say no to any development at Chester Haven Beach. Most weekends we are locked into the neighborhood and can't get anywhere on the island. Please respect the intent of critical area laws and protect our waterways, wildlife, and citizens. The developer claims he has nearly 178 recorded lots, but he's willing to compromise to 90 units. The problem is the lots don't exist to begin with, and the QA Board of Appeals and multiple Maryland courts say lots don't exist either. Even the Maryland Critical Area Commission, in a letter from last year, says the lots were never lawfully recorded, so they don't exist. The matter has been settled and the developer is entitled to probably something less than 10 units. Yet every few years the developer comes forth with a creative end around in trying to get the county commissioners to give credibility to highly questionable proposals. Doesn't Kent Island have enough development? This project is flatly illegal under critical area law and should be rejected outright by the county commissioners. Joe Best. Next email comes from Sheila Corsi Willis. Please stop the development on Kent Island. We cannot leave our homes on the weekends, and it is now spilling over into weekdays as well, with so many people moving here. I've lived on Kent Island for 72 years, all my life, and it is a crime what you keep approving for this land. Please do not approve this development. Thank you, Sheila Corsi Willis. Our next email comes from Leslie Perico. Dear Commissioners, this project is illegal. This is in request of the Chester Haven Beach Partnership. This project is illegal under critical area law. It is previously considered and denied, so why would anybody even consider this proposal? The courts have said the developer does not have what he claims. We must preserve our natural resource and the integrity of the area. These lots do not exist and were never lawfully recorded. Please deny this request for the sake of the residents and the wildlife, along with the decisions that have already been made regarding this land. Thank you, Leslie Perico. Next, our emails from Teresa Correa. Good morning, Commissioners. I am a resident of Chester, Maryland. Regarding tonight's action item number 8, I am asking that you please deny the rezoning reconsideration request of the Chester Haven Beach Partnership and allow this area of Kent Island to maintain its status as a resource conservation area. This area of Kent Island is already overly congested with traffic on the main thoroughfares. I'm also concerned for the wildlife that is being forced out in their natural habitat with the other major development projects taking place on this side of Chester. Respectfully submitted by Teresa Correa. And that's all tonight.
Thank you very much. All righty, we'll close press and public comment. Move on.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, Commissioners, next up we have presentations. So if you want to turn to tab number 6, we have one presentation for this evening, and that includes a proclamation number 2424 for Stroke Smart Awareness. And I'm happy to introduce our guests, Dr. Reena Saduko Singh, Medical Director, and Nicole Leonard, the Stroke Coordinator, all from University of Maryland Medical System. So would you like to come up to the bench, please? And I can't remember your other colleague's name, but Katie, yeah, all right. All right. Yeah, you can take them down there. All right, that'd be great. Thank you. Come on up. So this is, again, tab number 6, item 1.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Would you like us to read the proclamation first?
Yes, please.
That would work for you? Okay. All right. Jack has it.
Proclamation 24-24, whereas 1 in 6 people will have a stroke in their lifetime and 80% of families are affected. Additionally, stroke is the leading cause of long-term disability, putting a tremendous financial burden on individuals, families, as well as society. And whereas there are life-saving treatments that must be administered within 3 to 4.5 hours once symptoms begin, and only a very small percentage of patients get to the hospital within the treatment window because the majority of people do not know how to spot a stroke or the importance of calling 911 immediately. And whereas the Queen Anne's County public and private schools will be encouraged to make Stroke Smart, Spot a Stroke, Stop a Stroke, Save a Life part of their training for all students, faculty, and families. And whereas all the Queen Anne's County health and safety-focused entities such as hospitals, clinics, physicians, medical practices, health departments, pharmacies, fire, EMS, public safety, social services, and the Departments of Aging, and all county employees will be urged to participate in improving stroke literacy to educate all its employees, volunteers, and associated communities. And whereas the Queen Anne's County community, including businesses, civic organizations, senior communities, faith-based organizations, and inhabitants will be encouraged to participate and contribute to the Stroke Smart, Spot a Stroke, Stop a Stroke, Save a Life campaign through active citizenship efforts. And whereas the goal is to educate everyone in Queen Anne's County about stroke recognition and the importance of dialing 911 immediately, and therefore reduce the onset of stroke to 911 interval to be measured by EMS and local hospital systems, and thereby be a model for other communities, cities, counties, commonwealths, and states, as well as the nation, thereby advancing the vision of a stroke-smart America. Now, therefore, we, the County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, do hereby proclaim that Queen Anne's County will hereinafter be a stroke-smart county. Signed, your County Commissioners.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the proclamation and for the platform. We, at the University of Maryland Shore Regional Health, we are aiming to try to make all Marylanders to be able to recognize the signs and symptoms of a stroke so we can spot a stroke and stop a stroke and save a life. My name is Reena Saduko Singh. I am the Medical Director at the Primary Stroke Center at the University of Maryland Shore Regional Health in Easton. And our goal is to essentially teach every citizen, student, child, person about the signs and symptoms of a stroke because it is a time-sensitive matter. If someone can recognize that a person is having a stroke and call 911 and get them to the right place of treatment, you can significantly reduce the burden of morbidity and mortality that that patient suffers. Everybody here knows at least a friend or a neighbor or a family member that has suffered from a stroke, and it can be life-changing and it can affect a person and their family for their lifetime. And so our goal is to make sure that everybody knows how to recognize the symptoms and knows what to do. That is, call 911, initiate emergency medical services, and get them to the right place so that they can get the treatment. And this here is Nicole Leonard. She's our stroke coordinator.
Good evening. Yes, thank you for having us and for the support of this proclamation. Just to add what Dr. Sukhdev said, we are a primary stroke center at University of Maryland Shore Medical Center at Easton. Of course, we're a part of Shore Regional Health, which includes our freestanding emergency department in Queen Anne. So it's really important for us, a couple of things. Number one is if we can prevent strokes from happening, that's, our big goal. But also if someone does have that happen, we want them to be able to recognize it and to know to call 911. We, within the stroke program, work very closely with Queen Anne's County Emergency Services and work to make sure that if somebody has those symptoms, we're getting them to the right place and to the right hospital, which includes our primary stroke center at Easton. So I think this will just really help to enhance that and make sure that people are aware and know to call 911 so that they can get the treatment that they need. If they are having a stroke, it is very time sensitive, so it's important for them to get to the right place as quickly as possible. So we really just appreciate the support for you all and with the proclamation, and also just really wanted to recognize our system for the support of it, and also for Queen Anne's County Emergency Services and their support and collaboration and working with them so that we can ensure that the community is getting exactly what they need.
Excellent.
Awesome. Any questions?
So the 800-pound gorilla in the room is, what are some of the signs that someone can recognize? I mean, obviously, there are places where you can go to educate yourself. This is a very informative package that you've left us. But for the folks that are sitting here today and watching on television, 4 or 5 things that face.
Absolutely. Yeah, we go by BFAST, so BEFAST. So the B is for all of these symptoms are acute or sudden symptoms. So that's a change in balance or sudden dizziness. That's the B. The E is for eyes or vision. If you have a sudden change in vision, loss of vision, blurred vision, change in vision, that's E. F is for face, the drooping face. A lot of people recognize that one. A is for arm or leg. If you're having a sudden onset of weakness in the arm or leg, one or both, that's the A. S is for speech, which would be slurred speech, can't get your words out, confused or jumbled words. If your speech doesn't sound normal or if you sound confused, that's S. And then T is for time to call 911, because it is time sensitive, because every second that a stroke goes untreated, those are millions of brain cells that are dying. So time is the most important one.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned earlier about, everybody knows somebody who had suffered from one, and I just recently returned from Cooperstown, New York, where I was umpiring baseball, and there's a gentleman who was having a stroke, received treatment extremely fast, and is back umpiring with us today because of the quick reaction of someone recognizing the symptoms that he was going through. That's huge.
Absolutely. And we want everybody to know what to do and be able to recognize that something is wrong.
And he's got some permanent, issues with his left arm, but hasn't kept him from being able to do what he likes to do. But it was certainly because someone recognized it right away.
Wonderful.
So I'm just curious, you dial 911, what can 911 do for a stroke patient, or do they need to get to the hospital? Is there medications? Is there?
Absolutely. So why it's important to call 911 is because there is a protocol that we have in place with all our emergency medical system services and hospitals. So when a person actually takes themselves to the hospital, they have to go through.
I was referring to, are they carrying medications with them that would relieve some of the strokes?
So what our EMS does is they bring the patient to us. We get them right through the back door, no waiting. They go to the CT scanner, we get them evaluated, and then there is medication that can break up a clot. If a person is a candidate for that medication, and if they are arriving within 3 to 4.5 hours of the symptoms starting, then yes, we can administer that medication if it's appropriate, and that can break up the clot. Or if that clot is in a location that they can surgically remove it, we can initiate the transfer for them going to a facility that can remove that clot quickly and swiftly.
Is there anything that we have moving out a few years that our great first responders could use to required to get into the emergency room, or the possibility of better recovery, quicker recovery?
So the most important thing that our EMS does is recognizing that it is a stroke and calling ahead to the facility, letting us know that a stroke patient is coming in. Why it's important to not administer any medication in the EMS itself is because we need to first rule out, is it a bleeding stroke or is it a stroke because of a clot blocking an artery? And that makes a difference in the treatment. If it's a bleeding stroke, we can't give the clot buster, and that can actually make things worse. Make the hemorrhage worse. So that's why it's important to call EMS, get them right in through the back door, get them to our CAT scan or get the pictures taken. And so we can understand, is this a person that needs a clot busting medication to break up a clot, or is it a patient that needs something to help stop the bleeding? That's a bleeding stroke.
So what was the acronym again?
BFAST. I should ask you. What's the acronym?
BFAT.
BFAST, yes.
Gotcha.
That's a good question. That's good. That's great.
Well, thank you very much.
My follow-up question, Doctor, is from a preventative standpoint, is there a benefit to virtual scans? So there are some places on the Western Shore that allow folks to come in, they get their carotid looked at, or their vertebral, or their ascending, descending aorta, and it looks at it and scans it and it locks it in so that 5 years from later, they'll have that template of that original scan. Is there anything to prove that virtual scans can help with prevention if they see an abnormality within the artery or the vein?
That's a good question.
Or clots?
So I think if a patient has risk factors, significant risk factors, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, kidney disease, history of smoking, tobacco use, any of those risk factors that predispose you to having a stroke, including atrial fibrillation or coronary artery disease, I think it's very important that that patient stays on top of their primary care and stays on top of their risk factors. And if that requires them to have a carotid artery scan or a catheterization because of a coronary artery disease, then that is a good way for us to know what their risk factor is and what their risk is for having a stroke in the future. And that helps us establish a baseline. So that helps us understand if the patient has plaque or carotid artery disease that needs to be identified and taken care of prior to them having a stroke. Our goal really is to encourage patients to take care of their risk factors so that they don't have a stroke. And if that includes having scans done, if their doctor finds it appropriate, then I agree. I think that's a good idea.
At what age do you think would be a good idea to do a virtual scan? Obviously, if there's some asymptomatic, understood.
If the patient
is it 50, is it 55, is it 60?
Well, the risk factor for stroke doubles every decade after age 55. And that is something that you have to consider. That's just an age factor. The other thing to consider is, are you having, comorbid risk factors? Do you have a history of high blood pressure? Do you have a history of high cholesterol? Do you have a history of diabetes or heart disease? So if that's the situation, then talking to your primary doctor and having them discuss if it's appropriate to get a scan would be a good time at 55 when the risk starts to double.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the
Thank you.
platform.
Thanks for coming.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Could we take a photo with you all for?
Sure.
Well, the
You'll
three
get-
best looking
that's right.
anyway.
So we'll put you right in the middle.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, yes.
Okay, Commissioners, moving on, we have, next up, we have the Department of Public Works. So if you want to convene as the Roads Board, we have one action item for the Roads Board
Motion that
tonight.
would convene as the Roads Board.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. So if you want to turn to tab number 2, item 1, pages 1 through 16, this is the systematic replacement of the fleet equipment, which is for a Gradall. And we are requesting the purchase of one 6x4 Gradall from Elliott in France in the amount of $571,320.64 via the pre-established government Sourcewell contract. And as part of this purchase, the older unit will be replaced. It's a 1998 unit with nearly 90,000 miles. We'll be selling that on GovDeals for disposal.
I move to purchase one XL 4100V 6x4 Gradall from Elliott and France of King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, in the amount of $571,320.64 via the Sourcewell contract number 040319-GRD.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item?
What year was this?
It's a,
So,
it's a new model. It's a 2025, and the replacing a 1998 Gradall.
How long till we can get it?
We
Is
haven't
it a monumental
exact
wait?
date, But that's why we're in here early. We're trying to get it as soon as we can to get it here.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anything else for Chief Roads Engineer Shane Moore while he's here? Gentlemen, we're good?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks, Shane. All right, Commissioners, we can go to new business. This is, we have 8 action items under tab number 3. So if you want to turn to tab number 3, our first item, number 1 on page 1 is Proclamation 24-27, and this is for Parks and Recreation Month.
Since Phil's back from being on assignment, he's going to read this.
We have Director Chanley and James Miller up here from
So
the
this
department.
is Proclamation 24-27. Whereas Parks and Recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including Queen Anne's County. And whereas our Parks and Recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of the community and our region. Whereas Parks and Recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provides therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas Parks and Recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation areas are fundamental to the environment, well-being, and the community. And whereas Parks and Recreation, a natural recreation areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our parks, natural reaction areas ensure that the ecological beauty of our community, provide places for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors, and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas Queen Anne's County recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now therefore be it resolved that the Queen Anne's County Board of County Commissioners that is July, recognized the Parks and Recreation Month here in Queen Anne's County. It's Parks and Recreation and the things that we provide our citizens here in Queen Anne's County are a tangible return on property taxes. It's something that everybody uses in some fashion. And I think of all the things that we collect property taxes for to run our local level government, Parks and Recreation and the opportunity to use our parks and the facilities that we offer here in the county really is that real tangible, recognizable value that they get with their property taxes. So, and I know your staff, you guys do a great job. I stopped by the new skate park today that's being done, and the guys are working hard in the heat. That's just an example. I know that the baseball fields have been improved with covered dugouts, and so the kids aren't subject to the heat, and just a lot of great things that are being done in our community. You guys do a great job. And then, of course, the day-to-day running of those. It's not just implementing them, but it's actually running and maintaining them as well. So kudos to you, Steve, and your staff.
And again, we appreciate your all support. You know, it couldn't be done without with you guys. Thank you.
Well, my grandchildren want to know what happened to the golf classes.
To
The golf, the camp for golf
well,
for
still,
kids.
they still have golf classes.
Really? We called and they said there was not going to be one.
They have golf camps.
Yeah, for kids, to teach kids how to golf, right.
I have to double check on that.
All right, I guess I will too.
I might be teaching your kids golf. Sounds
There you go. All righty, very good.
And while these gentlemen are here, I want to just commend James here. I understand he was instrumental in arranging our 4th of July fireworks show at the Canton Arrows this year. And it was an outstanding display down there, and it was great to see everybody down at our revitalized visitor center on the grounds, and food trucks and music. It was just a very, very well done. So I want to appreciate that, and thanks.
Thank you.
Job well done.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I mean, I thank you guys for continued support, and like we kind of discussed, that was a good area to kind of bring it back to, is all the new work that's been done there and showcase that, so. Yeah,
It's very
thank
nice.
you.
Good. Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, again, tab 3, item 2, page 2. This is from the Kenton Arrows Development Foundation. This is a request for them to draw $65,000 from their 570 fund. This covers the foundation's projected upfront costs for ongoing projects and allows them to operate efficiently as the new allocations from the special tax district become available for FY24 later this fall.
I move to approve for the Kent Narrows Development Foundation to withdraw $65,000 from the 570 fund for project upfront costs for ongoing projects.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. So moved, 5-0.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item 3 on pages 3 through 11. This is the Bay Bridge Run 2024 MOU with the Maryland Transportation Authority, and MDTA and Queen Anne's County have negotiated once again with Corrigan Sports Enterprises to facilitate the 2024 Bay Bridge Run on November 10th, 2024. Last year was the 3rd year that Corrigan ran the event, and we contracted them to run it again. Over 17,100 runners participated last year, and we anticipate that will continue to increase. So this is a great opportunity to showcase, Queen Anne's County as a tourism destination. So this is the final year with Corrigan's existing agreement. We hope we can continue working with them. They've been a great partner. So this is for this year's event.
I move to execute the MOU between the Maryland Transportation Authority and Queen Anne's County that will allow Queen Anne's County to facilitate the Bay Bridge Run event on November 10th, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
5-0.
I will mention that you can sign up for the event anytime now. It is live at this point, so get your registration early. All right, item number 4 is amended Rural Maryland Economic Development Fund request. This is on pages 12 through 14. As you know, the Maryland Department of Commerce and Upper Shore Regional Council awarded Queen Anne's County $2.9 million in grant funds through their Rural Maryland Economic Development Fund. Commissioners voted to fund 11 projects two years ago in August 2022. And unfortunately, one of those projects cannot meet the required deadline. That's the town of Centerville. They've notified us they can't complete the project to improve their wastewater plant upgrades within the required time. However, we do have another project that is in need of some additional funding. That is our 4-H park improvements, which is ongoing. So we are recommending and requesting approval to allocate an additional $300,000 to the 4-H park project.
I move to approve the reallocation of $300,000 in Rural Maryland Economic Development funding to the Queen Anne's County 4-H Park, and that we decrease the Town of Centerville wastewater project grant to $200,000 with a due date extension of 6/30/2025.
Second.
All righty. Discussion. Would you like to?
Very, very briefly,
Yes.
we did provide a list of all the projects as an attachment, just so that you see them. Some of them are already completed. We considered the 4-H park, the $1.2 million that was already awarded, that has been fully funded, and they have really rolled along on accomplishing their goals and upgrades. And so when we originally met with the town of Centerville, we had awarded them $500,000 for 2 specific buildings as the part of the larger wastewater upgrade. Due to timing, everything gets extended nowadays with getting approvals and all. They were unable to meet the deadline, and we talked to Upper Shore Regional Council as well as the Department of Commerce, and we were able to get an extension on one of the buildings, which is the testing lab, which will cost about $200,000. It's there, but this is just going to improve that and upgrade it. And it can be done even before the other improvements are done. So this is the one component that we are able to fund, and we will work with them to look for other funding for the other piece where possible. And they have been notified on this change.
Very good. Any questions?
Good stuff.
Any questions, guys? Okay. Okay, so we're allocating, reallocation of $300,000 to the 4-H park. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. So moved, 5-0.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Our next item, item number 5 on page 15. This is just a one-page memo, and I know we have some more here, but this is the Economic and Tourism Development Official 2020-2024 Visitors Guide, and I'm going to let April and Heather take it from here because this is a beautiful presentation, a nice visitor's guide, and a lot of artwork, and I know they wanted to showcase this publicly tonight.
Well, before April gets started, I just wanted to commend her on her work. This is the first visitor's guide that she's been a part of since joining our team, and she knocked it out of the park. We can't be more prouder of it, and I just wanted to say that. And another really cool part of this is that we worked with several other departments within the county to do some of the work, so that was kind of a neat teamwork.
Thank you. So this year, our visitor guide, we launched as a bundle, so I have some copies that I can pass out, but we did a limited run of the bundles, which showcase the visitor's guide, the outdoor guide, and the culinary guide. Those are our top 2 requests by far, is outdoor activities and culinary. So we put together some complimentary information that goes with the visitor's guide. And the visitor's guide is also available as a standalone, which has all the information you'd need to visit the county. A few of our top features in it are another highly requested thing is the South Island and Cross Island Trail map. So we added that as a fold out, and it's perforated so people can tear it out and take it with them. We did a Get Out on the Water map. We worked with GIS and Parks on that. And came up with all of the boat ramps and the best places for people to launch, and added some information about our waterways and where the best places are depending on experience. We did a map on the back, which I have a large printed version to leave with you that kind of represents all of the landmarks within our county, North County, all the way to Kent Island. And then we interviewed local experts for our outdoor guide, so they covered topics such as birding and fishing, so that visitors can hear it directly from the experts when they come to visit and they want to take charters out or bird watching tours. So, and we also did some teamwork with a lot of local photographers and brought them in, so it's showcasing their work as well, along with all the other county departments. I think I covered most of the highlights of it. It's available in both print and digital, and thank you for your time, and I appreciate your support for tourism.
Great job. Listen.
We're going to leave these here.
Oh,
with
yeah.
you.
Yes, you are.
And we could get more printed. We also have the large map that we had done printed out to leave here with the commissioners, and then the 3 guide covers, which all work together. You'll see on the.
I'm gonna hold it
Yeah,
up
let's
so they
see
can
them.
get it.
Really, yeah, we're really
Yeah, hold 'em
tickled
up.
with how
Let's
they
see 'em.
turned out.
Yeah, they're great.
Put all the guides together. It's like a big 10-minute shot.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
That is.
They actually would have solved that the other way.
They're not really up there. I took mine at the crab deck, so I've got mine. I kept them. Yeah, absolutely. I like the maps in there.
Thank you.
Right, that's the
they're
most
great.
requested thing.
Yep,
Yep, very well done.
thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Commissioners, moving right along, item number 6 on pages 16 through 25. This is the Rural Maryland Council grant application for the community revitalization through adaptive reuse for the former Sudlersville Middle School, Phase 3. And this is a recommendation for approval to apply for another Rural Maryland Council grant for $50,000 to fund pre-development costs for the adaptive reuse of the school. And this is a partnership project we've been working on with the Sudlersville Volunteer Fire Company for several years.
I move to approve Queen Anne's County's Economic Tourism Development's grant proposal to Rural Maryland Council for up to $50,000 to fund pre-development consulting costs for the adaptive reuse former Sudlersville Middle School building.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Explain what this is all about.
Okay, so we have been working with Sudlersville Volunteer Fire Department for several years. The first part of the project was funded through a CBDG grant in order to do a study on what the building could be used for, I can't talk today, what kind of construction needs would need to take place for the reuse. We found out that the building was in really good shape. Schools are great for housing, for affordable housing, over 55 housing, assisted living kind of options. And we also surveyed the community and held a community outreach event where individuals kind of talked about what kind of uses they would like to see for the building. That was a while ago, back in 22, I think. And in 23, we went to the second phase, and we applied for a small $30,000 grant to work with Medco, Maryland Economic Development Corp., to look at a market study looking at what kind of lease rates are affordable for that area, what kind of uses are in need for Sudlersville and the surrounding town. That study is going to be complete within the next few days, and we'll have that. This is the third component now, where we're looking for Medco to again assist us with finding some developer relationships, as well as looking for funding opportunities. Again, it's in partnership with Sudlersville Volunteer Fire Department. They will supply the match that's required for this, so there's no out of pocket funding required from the county perspective. They always, submit the match that's involved with that. And this will be the final phase for looking at these small phases. And the next step would be, once that study is complete, is looking for those that either want to go into the first floor for some sort of commercial and or resource-based, community-based type of use. And then over time, they're hoping for the second floor to be housing.
How's the laundromat?
The laundromat is doing amazing.
Awesome.
They have a couple part-time employees there. And they're looking at community uses for that first floor. How can they support what's already there? The Boys and Girls Club has looked at it. There's all different kinds of entities that have looked at it to say, how can we support the community? So that's our hope. It's not, we don't have a say in what happens there, but we certainly are helping to guide and lead what could be. So it's a really great project.
Sounds like it.
Any other questions?
What's that, Patrick?
I said, thank you for doing that.
Oh, okay.
And the team.
So again, we're voting to approve Queen Anne's County Economic and Tourism Development's grant proposal to Rural Maryland Council for up to $50,000 to fund pre-development consulting costs for the adaptive reuse of the former Sothersville Middle School building. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Heather.
Yeah, thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioners, thank you. Item number 7 on page 26. This is a request for an extension to complete County Ordinance 2409 for short-term rental, residential rentals. And this is a staff request to allow an additional time to gather and analyze county-specific data for potential edits to County Ordinance 2409. This was conveyed to the Planning Commission back in April. It was placed on their May 2024 agenda, and we've received a lot of comments regarding this potential ordinance, and we need a little more time to gather information and data so we can put that together to make adjustments and present a complete ordinance for the consideration by the board. So they have 90 days to get it back and forth. We need a little more time to, that's the reason for the extension.
I move to grant a review extension in accordance with 18-1-220C1 for County Ordinance 2409, which was conveyed from the County Commissioners to the Planning Commission on April 23, 2024. I cite the delay in this review to be caused by a need to consider county-specific short-term rental data to better inform the draft code update.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? This is basically an extension. We need more time. Is it 3 months? Is it a 3 months extension, or is how long?
There's no date specified
Okay.
in the code. It just says extension. It doesn't have a
Perfect.
timeline.
Yeah, okay, because this is I think it's an important text amendment, so take our
Get it
time
right.
and get it right. That's
Yep.
right. Chris, Patrick, you got anything?
And then also, I'm gonna abstain from the vote, but just because I think I'm not able to vote on the short-term rent, ordinance, I'll just abstain from the vote.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention. All righty. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioners. And our last item this evening is item number 8 on pages 27 through 62. And this is comprehensive rezoning request CRR05 submitted by Chester Haven Beach. This is an application to add what is known as tax map 57 parcel 25 to the Chester growth area and to rezone it to Chester Master Plan Development CMPD when the comprehensive zoning was addressed. This property is mapped S1, which is does have sewer service on the property currently, and W6, which is no planned service for water, and it is classified in the Neighborhood Conservation NC15 zoning district. It also has a resource conservation RCA designation for critical area purposes. I have Amy Mordock here, the Director of Planning, Stephanie Jones as well, the Principal Planner, County Attorney Pat Thompson, for any questions that you have. And I think they're going to kind of walk us through a little bit of history on this. This has got a rich, long history, but I will just say that this came up to the board back in May of 2022 when the project proposal was rejected. The commissioners were concerned about the legal density and were asking the applicant to seek a declaratory judgment or equivalent court ruling to establish the grandfathering of the lots that are on that particular property, and that at that point in time we would reconsider this at a later date. So there's been a lot of correspondence since that point in time. They also did come in October and amend their public works agreement to reduce the number of allocations they had on the property from 180 to 90. So we did recapture some very coveted sewer allocation from this project proposal as part of that. So, and then this past month, the applicant submitted a request for the board to reconsider putting this property into the growth area, which would allow them to pursue public water in addition to the public sewer that they already have on the property. So, Amy?
Or they would develop with wells, correct?
Or they could develop with private wells. That's correct. But they they would rather do this from a public water, public sewer standpoint, which is certainly better for the environment.
So, thank you, Todd. That is part of the summary I was going to give, but I want to contextualize it a little bit. And thanks Stephanie, who's done all of the research and all of the legwork on the entire comp plan update. And this is the last piece. And this is a placeholder that was put into effect during the review of all of the comprehensive rezoning requests. There was only this one application that was held open for future consideration. So I know that probably is confusing to a lot of people because we don't undertake comprehensive rezoning requests very often. We only do that when we open up the comprehensive plan. And like the confusion that a lot of people have with how the sewer allocations are working because of the limits that we've reached with the wastewater treatment plant, there's always, you know, an extra explanation that kind of tells the story as to why we're still talking about these comprehensive rezoning requests several years later. And the reason that this case was placed on hold was that it does have a complicated history in terms of its placement in the growth area. It was removed from the growth area during the 2010 comprehensive plan update when the comprehensive plan committee voted to reduce the amount of development. So that was a very specific intentional decision. However, at that time, there were still these allocations that were in play for this property. So because of that legal question that was raised as to the legitimacy of those lots, this board asked the applicant to seek a declaratory judgment, which is very natural when there is a court case that is on the records, but that there's been confusion about since the time that case, that decision was rendered in the 90s. A year after, almost a year to the date after that request was made in May of 2022, Joe Stevens, on behalf of the applicant, Chester Haven Beach Partnership, reached out to the county and opined that there's no controversy in the case because the county has a long history of honoring those lots. So after that May decision, or after that request in May, this came back. This is the 5th time this particular case has been before you since May of 2022. This item came back to you based on that opinion and was put before you to reconsider. At that time, you did receive a letter from Queen Anne's County, or Queen Anne's Conservation Association that put forward the historic documents. And at that time, the matter was tabled and was then reconsidered and rescheduled for August. So it was just rescheduled by a month for reconsideration. During that time, there was also discussion of the allocations that were on the books and discussion of reducing to 90, which we've already talked about, and to proceed with a development proposal that would not require growth allocation, which would mean that the development on the property would be held basically to a 15% lot coverage limit. Growth allocation for development, when a development becomes an intense development area, loses that limitation on, among other items, but it loses that limitation on the amount of impervious cover and lot coverage, and in a development that's very important generally because of the road infrastructure. So realizing that a lack of growth allocation would reduce the impact of the development from the 180 to 90 lots. That conversation was held at the April meeting. The applicant agreed in essence to that condition that was put forward in conversation. There was no vote, but that was put forward. Additionally, we received letters. We received a joint letter from Chesapeake Wildlife Heritage and another letter and from Queen Anne's Conservation Association and from the chairman of the Critical Area Commission, who all collectively expressed concern over the validation of those lots and whether or not those lots exist as platted in the 1959 plat. At the time, Joe Stevens, on behalf of Chester Haven Beach Partnership, responded to the Critical Area Commission Chair's letter, but still no action was taken that night, and the project was tabled. Historically, staff met with legal counsel throughout this entire process to make sure that we were on the right track. For 20 plus years, it has been the legal guidance of counsel, both the planning attorney and the county attorney, that the lots are valid and that the court cases that were rendered were not specific to the number of lots and the grandfathering of those lots. Those cases were focused on merits of the Board of Appeals decision, and I'm not going to go into that conversation. I'll let Pat do that. But because this was a recurring matter and the applicant requested to move forward with an amendment to the Public Works Agreement to officially reduce those allocations from 180 to no more than 90, we asked for a legal determination. So our planning attorney, Chris Drummond, did so and was pleased to do so, and had done so in conjunction with Pat. And so we have that legal opinion formally from Chris and from Pat. I don't know if you want to add anything to that aspect.
No, I mean, Chris just basically applying that we'd recognize these as lots of record for 30 years. It would be pretty difficult to reverse course at this point. And there really hadn't been anything happen. The plat was recorded. There was I forget what you call it, where they have to.
An administrative subdivision.
Well, an administrative subdivision, but there was also, you had to register and hold subdivision.
Certificate of exemption.
And that was done.
1961.
Yeah. So, I mean, and we've given it silver, that was years ago.
That was in 2010, correct?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. So based on that assurance, and then your hearing in October of 2023, where that amendment to the Public Works Agreement was approved, has been recorded, then in June, the applicant asked to come forward with the reconsideration, which is happening tonight. So this is, again, this is the 5th time this matter has come before you, always with the legal assurance on the county end that our record is clear on the history of this case. There's definitely a difference of legal opinion in the interpretation of this court cases. But for the scope of this request, this is not a request for an approval of a development or for an approval of a reduction of lots on a plat. This is a request to replace this property, which was once in the growth area and removed from the growth area, to be returned to the growth area where it had already received its sewer allocation, to proceed with a development proposal with water and under the conditions that have been previously discussed. And if you were to vote favorably this evening, to accept this application to be relocated into the growth area per the comprehensive rezoning request in May of 2022, if you were to look at that favorably and add those conditions, it would have to proceed on that track through development. And at that time, and as outlined in the Critical Area Commission Chair's letter, they had expressed a concern that proceeding with a subdivision or re-subdivision and development application would trigger their consideration to take any legal action that they might feel necessary at that time. There are clearly other entities who have put in writing that they might pursue an aggrievement against decisions as well. But this decision tonight is just specifically about the growth area and to allow this project to move forward on a path. Did I miss anything?
You got it.
Yeah, you did a good job. Do we want to,
A lot of information.
do you want us to read into the record, Mr. Drummond's
At least the
findings?
first paragraph.
Well, first, I hate to leave something out, and then this will be available online.
Sure.
This is a letter from Attorney Christopher Drummond to the Queen Anne's County Commissioners dated October 24th of 2023, and we had kept it in attorney-client privilege since receiving it. Reference Chester Haven Beach, lots of record. I have been asked to commit to writing my opinion regarding the status of the lots of Chester Haven Beach. My view on the status of the lots has not changed over the past 20 years. In my opinion, there are 178/179 lots of record in Chester Haven Beach. Originally, 186 lots were created when the Chester Haven Beach plat was recorded in 1959. At that time, Queen Anne's County did not have a zoning ordinance or subdivision regulations. Recording a plat was all that was required to subdivide land. Chester Haven Beach was then no different than Cloverfields, Bay City, Kent Island Estates, Roman Coke, or Marling Farms. In 1962 to 63, the owners of Chester Haven Beach secured a certificate of exemption from the county which recognized the lots as valid. To the best of our knowledge, it was the only certificate of exemption issued by the county after the first zoning ordinance and interim subdivision regulations were adopted in 1962. In 1992, the owners sought conditional use approval for a number of apartments using the density derived from the lots created in 1959. The owners also sought several variances from the requirements for apartment developments. The Board of Appeals denied both requests. The board determined that apartments in the location were inconsistent with the objectives of the NC-15 district and that the owners had not satisfied the board's concerns about traffic. The board also found that the owners had not met their burden of proof on demonstrating a hardship justifying the requested variances. Though not necessarily to the ultimate decision, the board, or more precisely Mike Foster, decided to comment on the lot of record issue. The board's written decision includes that the owners failed to prove that the 1959 plat had been recorded and met whatever requirements were in place in 1959 to create lots. The board did not find that Chester Haven Beach had not been properly subdivided in 1959, only that the owners did not offer proof of valid subdivision. The board's decision was upheld by the Circuit Court in the Court of Special Appeals on the basis that the board had substantial evidence justifying its denials so that the reviewing courts would not disturb the conclusions of the board. The Circuit Court decision does not include Judge Wise's single troubling sentence that refers to the lack of successful percolation test as an indication that the lots are not lots of record. Opponents have seized upon that rogue remark. Perk tests were not required for new subdivisions in 1959, and the subject was not raised before the board. Successful perk tests were required before a house could be built. I remain perplexed by Judge Wise's decision to include that sentence. It is incorrect and, in any event, it's dicta and not dispositive. The Court of Appeals, now the Appellate Court of Maryland, decision in 1994 essentially concedes that there are 186 lots on the property. It completely agrees with the Circuit Court that the board did not have evidence to grant the variances and acted within its authority in denying the conditional use application. The status of the lots was unimportant to the Court of Special Appeals. The court did chastise planning and zoning staff for supporting the variances where there appeared to be no facts to support the request. The criticism had nothing to do with the status of the lots. In 2011, Chesapeake Wildlife sued the owners and the county after the county granted sewer allocation for all 186 lots. The lawsuit sought to enjoin the owners and the county from working on any plans that relied upon 186 lots of record. The lawsuit was dismissed by the Circuit Court because any such challenge must await a final planning and zoning approval and the outcome of an appeal to the Board of Appeals. The Court of Special Appeals agreed. Thereafter, the owners requested approval for an administrative subdivision combining 7 of the 186 lots into a single lot. Approval was granted by planning and zoning, and the principal of the owner has built a sprawling residence on that lot. The point, in my opinion, this is Chris Drummond, is that neither the Board of Appeals nor a court has ruled that Chester Haven Beach lots are not lots of records. Planning and zoning has treated them as lots of record for decades. Sewer allocation has been granted on the basis that they are lots of record, just as lots in other 1950s Kent Island subdivisions have been recognized. If they do not qualify as lots of record, opponents will need to raise and provide that argument before the Planning Commission and or the Board of Appeals when an actual development plan is submitted. Until then, planning and zoning will continue to operate under the premise that the lots were properly created in 1959 and qualify as lots of record. And we also have another letter from Patrick Thompson agreeing with that finding. So that will be available online tomorrow morning for anybody that would like to see that letter. You have anything else you want to add to that? Anything you want to add anything to it?
No, I think I'm gonna make a motion to untable the August 22nd motion so that we can discuss further. So I will move to take from the table the item related to CRR 05 Chester Haven Beach Partnership LLP that was tabled on August 22nd, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Abstained?
Let's see what Chris was.
Chris, are you opposed, abstained, or an aye?
No, I voted there for the motion for discussion.
What do you say?
He's further discussion.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So that's 5-0. Okay.
Now further to move it forward, I move to reconsider the request from CRR 05 Chester Haven Beach Partnership LLP, map 57, parcel 25 for inclusion within the Chester growth area despite the owner's lack of submittal of a declaratory judgment or equivalent court ruling as requested at the May 10, 2022 hearing, citing a concurrence with the documentation provided on the May 4, 2023 by the applicant's attorney and confirmed by our county attorneys.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this item. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Thank you. 4-1.
All right, so just for those here, obviously mostly Gibson's Grant residents, this timeline, and I want to say an inordinate amount because each time we have one of these requests, and I think in my 9 years, we've tackled probably between 4 and 5, which have been older, latent property issues, and we've treated each one as its own individual case. And I've spent quite a bit of time here in the last 2 weeks going through all the documentation, which Amy did a great job of summation for us. But there was just, in my mind, there was some things that, as a basic right of property rights, I had an issue with taking something from someone and really having no final judgment that it should have been taken. To that end, I was never in favor of 180 homes property. Never would have voted for it, never would have got my support. 180 wells is a ridiculous idea. 90 wells, 5 wells, 1 well down there is a ridiculous idea. At 90, I believe that that is a fair compromise in my mind to the owner's property rights that existed since 1959 on that property. And no one's going to convince me that those are not lots of record based on the laws at the time. And if we're going to talk about following the laws, we can't change the laws. And to my knowledge, and I've asked the question of several attorneys, there is no sunset on property rights. So to that end, I personally am in favor of moving forward with the 90 lots, with extending the water to those areas. I understand there are traffic issues, but just remember, all we're doing is allowing this to start the development phase over again. They still have to pass traffic studies and all the other things that go in with a development. There'll be planning and zoning meetings. All that stuff will still have to happen. This just clears the way to actually move forward with it. To a couple of comments that were made early on, I did want to clarify, because as a commission, again, we take every property at face value. One of the ones that was mentioned was the condominium complex that was proposed at former Hemingway's, now Libby's area. If those that remember, it was at 326 condominiums.
I think it was 375. But it
Or
was
375 with retail underneath. It's now just 32 townhomes. And we held the line on that, and for good reason, obviously. That just didn't fit the area. There were asks for more height and a lot of other things that we didn't agree with, and so did not go with that. In this case, I think at the end of the day, based on 60 years of toiling with it, I think this is a fair compromise for the owner. I think 90 lots is certainly manageable in that area. And again, I have to, in good conscience, extend water to it because I do not want to see any wells drilled down in that area. So, anything to add, Phil?
I got nothing to add. That's
Yeah,
basically
well, I just
the
say,
motion.
Jack, that your point taken. I mean, you're spot on there. And again, with this, the need for there's going to be no need for critical area growth allocation. The developers said that they will not do that. So again, this is all we're doing is, and somebody came in tonight and talked about the rule of law, and I'm 100% for it. So we're doing our job in moving this forward and clearing it out of the county's coffers so we can move on. Now, what happens to this when it comes for planning and zoning or anybody else that wants to challenge it in court? So be it. I mean, that's where everybody's going to find out where the rubber hits the road, and we'll get a final answer there. But I think that this is the right thing to do. I think that this has been, like so many other developments, kicked around in the county forever, and I think this is. I'm happy we're doing this.
And honestly, in hindsight and looking at the timeline, this could have been done in 2005, and we wouldn't be sitting here today. The same deal could have been struck in 2005. And sadly for Gibson's Grant, it may not have existed had that deal been struck in 2005 because of where the property is located, obviously adjacent to Gibson's Grant. So, with that said, I will move to accept the request from CRR05 Chester Haven Beach Partnership LLP, map 57, parcel 25, as recommended by the Planning Commission for inclusion within the Chester growth area and in the public hearing materials presented at the April 12, 2022 public hearing, but to reject the Planning Commission's recommendation to rezone the property Chester Master Plan Development, CMPD, and to retain the NC-15 zoning of the property in accordance with the findings as outlined in the staff memorandum dated June 25, 2024. I further move that a condition be placed on the development of this property that the reconfiguration of the 180 vacant lots be limited to 90 vacant lots without the need for critical area growth allocation. I further move that the recaptured sewer allocation of 22,500 gallons be designated only for institutional, commercial, or failing septic mitigation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
There you go, 3-2. All right.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Any other?
No, planning staff, thank you very much for your efforts in clearing up a lot of the information out there that was inaccurate.
All right. Thank you all. That is all the action items we had tonight, Commissioners. We can
Press and public comment.
go to press and public comment, part 2.
Nobody signed up outside? Is there a second?
There may be.
There is none?
I don't think.
Would anybody like to speak? Press and public comment. Yes, sir? Just, hold on, let him get the microphone out here so we, there you go.
Mr. Brown, a family business of building and expanding like did in Owens Mills and what have you. Has anyone asked him to donate the land? I mean, I realize the whole idea is he wants to build houses. I get that and all that. But someone who's done so much over the years in building, has anyone approached him and say, why don't you donate this so it'll never be built on? You know, be a savior, you know, to help save Kent County from what it once was. You know, even a little piece, maybe that would set something in motion that other people might feel the same way, instead of just how much more money can I make? You know, that's all. I mean,
That's a question you can ask at the planning commission when they bring it up for their site approval. You really could. Now, honestly, that's the best place to do it, to make those comments, is at the planning and zoning meetings where they come in for their application and their site approval.
Let me, also, if I can, have you all been down to that spot? Are you familiar with it? Mm-hmm. Okay. You know, that's right at the point where the Chester River comes down south, and it pretty much hits that area just as well as it does Gibson's, you know, Gibson's Grant and all. I'm sure it will be a beautiful spot for houses, just like, you know, Gibson's Grant. Love the community. I'm glad it's there. I'm sorry I'm part of the problem. I'm really. Gibson's Grant, in order to go forward, and this was a project, from what I understand, it started many years ago, had to make, give and take with the county. Like we have a lot of that property in Gibson's Grant area where there's man-made ponds for wildlife. Right? And I don't know exactly what it amounts to territory-wise, but it's like 50-some acres.
56.
Right? Do something like that, take it into consideration. You know, we did, matter of fact, the builders, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Gibson's Grant was also at one time supposed to be townhouses, and they did away with that. You know, and it's a beautiful community. I'm glad I'm there and all that, and I don't want to keep anyone else from living in a beautiful community. But that, the traffic, it just, somewhere along the line, it's got to stop. I mean, really, I haven't been here obviously for 400 years. There are some families on Kent Island, you know, their ancestors were here for 4. I met a guy who was crap. His ancestors have been here for 400 years.
Thank you.
Well, that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you so much.
Would anybody, okay. Mm-hmm. Just remember to state your name again, please.
Scott Zetterstrom, thank you. Just to clarify my question earlier, you had said that there was 22,500, I guess, gallons per day.
Correct.
Available. Now that you've drawn the 22,500 down from what was previously, does that
45, right.
Do we have 45,000 left now?
No. There was 45 initially. There's 22.5 required. There's 22.5 that's coming back to the county.
Right, but my question was, how much extra is available?
How much is left? You want to know what our
How much is currently unallocated was my question.
We can get you Schedule A, but we just went through a re-rating process, so there's approximately 300,000 gallons that is available. Now, some of that has been earmarked for public health concern areas, for correction of failing septic systems, a portion for commercial, institutional growth. So there is some remaining allocation. I can get you the schedule that provides that breakdown.
Yeah, that would be great. And then this 22.5 is now added to that?
Correct.
Yes.
But this again will be earmarked, as the motion stated, for institutional commercial.
Right. Yeah.
And for those that don't understand, when we're saying institutional, typically that's school-related or special housing, assisted living, things like that. We consider that institutional.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? We'll close press and public comment then. Round table. Coming from across the pond. Chris, you want to go first?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Well, I'll be returning back to the country this weekend. Look forward to sitting in the chambers again. Thanks for not bringing up the panic too much while I was gone. I had faith in you guys, so that's all I got.
All right, buddy. Patrick?
Good, I'm good.
There you go. Jack?
Yeah, so I actually received a text during the meeting from Rob Rager from State Highway, just because I know there was quite the hue and cry last week when the announcement was made that the 405 crossover was going to be temporarily closed to gather statistical data on both what the reduction, obviously there will be no accidents at 405, but what the uptick may or may not be at the rest area and Route 19 and other routes of crossing 301. I fall on the side that I applaud the effort by the state to do something there. The statistics were horrific when you look at the number, and literally taking a year and a half away for COVID where there was very little travel, the number of accidents that were responded to, over 72 accidents at that one intersection, one crossover. And these aren't fender benders, these are full-blown, and I see Jay shaking his head because I'm sure he's witnessed a few back, full-blown accidents. I mean, they're T-bones at 85 miles an hour. Most people, they put guardrails up there. I think they change them bi-weekly now because at least every week there's at least 1 to 2 accidents there. It's very taxing for our emergency services. Our fire department, we had one incident, and I think it goes back a year at that particular intersection where we had all but one of our ambulances in the county had to respond because of the number of people involved that had to be transported, along with 2 of the 4 available medevacs in the state of Maryland. So I applaud the effort, and again, everybody needs to rest assured it's temporary. My update is, that, and the text I got is that it was originally going to be July 15th. They're now postponing that till July 29th because they want to make, I guess, availability for EMS to still use that as a crossover. And that was one of my concerns, was that our Churchill Fire Department, when they respond across that corridor to go up to 19, it can add 2 to 3 minutes, and especially for EMS, same thing, 2 to 3 minutes, as we just heard from our young ladies about the strokes. That's time is the most critical thing. So the state's going to take an extra 2 weeks to look at ways that they'll be able to utilize it still for emergency services, much like you see a lot of the crossovers where the state police and emergency vehicles are allowed to use elsewhere. But again, I applaud it. It's a 6-month program, and they really just want to gather the statistical data to decide what's going further. I saw responses all over the place, like the county should pay to build an overpass. And I think the last overpass that was built was 304, right? And to my knowledge, the state paid for that was just north of $60 million for an overpass. So I don't know that county citizens want to pony up for, what have we got, 8 at-grade intersections. That'd be quite the bill to have to foot. But the alternative of loss of life is obviously not anything to be taken lightly. And for those that are newer to the area, the 304 overpass exists because of a tragic loss of 3 young high school students crossing there that were killed. So again, I applaud the state's effort to do something. We've been asking them for my 8 years at least since they put the Delaware bypass on, of the fast track to get done. And it's, with the Key Bridge, it's increased the traffic coming southbound exponentially. There's no toll. So the truckers are taking full advantage of that, not to mention all hazmat materials now have to travel on 301 to avoid 95 tunnels. So the situation there it's overdue, and we'll give it 6 months. Let's see what the statistics bear out. And to everybody else, all of my fellow people in North County, take your time crossing. We all know better. The problem is there's a lot of people that just believe those stop signs are for somebody else, and a lot of times that is the result, is somebody just decides that stop sign doesn't really need to be there. So that's all I got, Jim.
Really?
So,
Jack, I applaud you. That's huge.
So you may or may not remember several months back when I had made announcements regarding the boat shrink wrap program that the commissioners partnered with Plastic Free Queen Anne's County and the Maryland Marine Trades Association to provide plastic bags for when the shrink wrap came off the boat so that it could be recycled. I have some great news, if I can just take a few minutes here to read the information. I want to thank Beth. She's going to release a press release sharing the success of the program compared to when we first rolled it out last year. So basically last year we took 1.62 tons of the shrink wrap removed from the landfills because that's where it was all going. I am proud to announce that we actually removed 6 tons this year in the reduction of the shrink wrap because of this program. So I want to thank my fellow commissioners for the financial support to provide these bags to our citizens and to the marinas that wanted to participate in the program. And we hope the success of this plan and this program will bring more of our marinas and citizens with boats to recycle that plastic. So
Does that get designated strictly to come back as shrink wrap or because of the material it's made
I don't,
from?
it's recycled, it's taken to, it's actually a commodity, it's actually purchased and used, but it's, the nice thing about it is it is single-use plastic, so it can be used for a lot of different things. Most important thing is reused for some other things as opposed to just going into our landfill. So 1.62 tons to,
Six tons.
yeah, so we're excited about it.
Yeah, that's 6 tons not in our landfill.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So we're looking forward to participation. This bag was $15. It's now free. And I think I'm going to take home.
There you go. Good.
That's all I have.
All righty. I'm going to touch on 2 different things. The first is Chester Haven Beach. And the reason I want to talk about that is we are in the digital age. Everything's on Facebook, everything's out there, and people will say whatever they want to say, and all of it isn't nice, and all of it isn't nasty. But I have to take exception when I sit there at night, and I, honest to God, don't get on there, but my wife does, and she says, "You got to see this, you got to see that." But when people accuse commissioners of taking bribes and all this other nonsense, I mean, it just. I guess we're living in an age now where nothing is sacred, and I don't have any problem with anybody questioning us and what we do, but to say that, we're corrupt and we take money for these things. This job pays $25,000. I've been here 11 years, and it paid $25,000 11 years ago. There's no raises, there's none of that, there's no glory, no vehicles we drive home, no special treatments, none of that kind of crazy stuff. So, I just, we do it because we love where we live. And now I'm going to go into my second part, which these guys tell them what I'm going to talk about.
The bridge.
The bridge, traffic. So tomorrow night is the Bay Bridge Reconstruction Advisory Group, and that's at the MDTA police station across the bridge. It's open to the public. MDTA is going to be there, State Highway is going to be there, Queen Anne's County is going to be there, Anne Arundel County is going to be there, and we talk about the bridge and how we can make things better. I mean, we get a lot of comments tonight about the traffic. That is not our traffic. We do not have those problems in November, December, January, February, March, April. We don't. We get around, we have any problem, we don't have that trouble. I tell people when they say, "Oh my God, it's all the development." Well, if that's the case, where the hell's everybody going on Sunday night? They leaving the county? There's that traffic equates to almost 100,000 vehicles. And Sunday, we had a 16-mile backup for over 5 hours. Over 5 hours. Now, we are trying a pilot program by closing the Route 8 ramp, which infuriates everybody in southern Kent Island. And I understand that, because now we just made their trip, if they're going to Annapolis, they got to turn right, they got to go to Castle Marina, or they got to cut through the shopping center. And we understand that. But traffic does move quicker. The problem we're having now is on these mega holiday weekends, which July 4th was, is Chester Haven Beach Overpass and Nesbitt Road. And I was out there on Sunday and I was out there on Saturday, and they just line up and they get off there, and a lot of these are Pennsylvania, Washington DC and Virginia, because they are the owners of condos. They go for the weekend. Everybody goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but they all come home on Sunday. And that is, we could have no developments here and our traffic would still be the way it is. So, and I understand that frustration because, you know, we're all in it too. I mean, you know, maybe not Jack, he's up North County and Todd's in Centerville, but Phil and I and Chris especially, we're all in it. And we are trying to do everything we can to alleviate some of that traffic. So we're going to ask tomorrow, I'm going to ask tomorrow for permission as part of our plan to close, when the traffic backs up to the Kent Narrows, close Chester Haven Beach, and then close Nesbitt. And now we're allowed through emergency services, the hospital, and everything else, but closing those denies that access, keeps that traffic out on Route 50 and off of Route 18 so we can move around. I mean, we are seeing signs of relief in that traffic where people can now move. But, you know, honestly, Sundays isn't the bad day, Saturday is. Because Saturday, we don't get contraflow. They don't return that contraflow to us until after 1 o'clock. And by then, it's already a 3-mile, 4-mile, 5-mile backup, and it's growing faster than it can flush. So that's Saturday is our problem child, and we have to work on that. But it's not going to get any better without capacity, and that means a new bridge. We went through phase 1 of the NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act. Phase 1 of it was a 4-year study saying that all the corridors they had up and down the bay, this is where that bridge is going to go, somewhere in a 2-mile span of where they are now. Phase 2 of the NEPA is going to tell us exactly where that bridge is going to go. Is it going to be a bridge? Is it going to be a tunnel? Is it going to be a bridge tunnel? Is it going to be 8 lanes, 6 lanes? All of that information will come out at the end of phase 2 of the NEPA, which is 2 years away. Once phase 2 is done, it identifies where the money's coming from, and we all need to be concerned about that, where the state is going now and how much money we're spending on, I don't want to say frivolous, but we have some serious needs in this state. And now we're going to build a red line in Baltimore where everybody says, and you know, on the state side, that it's going to lose money. Where we have a bridge here that's going to cost somewhere between $8 and $10 billion for the infrastructure, the roadway and the bridge. So, you know, I'm concerned about it. I mean, I want to see this bridge built so that this traffic, just like it does now at the 495 bridge that goes into Virginia.
Yeah, Woodrow Wilson.
Thank you. Woodrow Wilson Bridge, where that's 8 lanes in each direction, or excuse me, 6?
It's 6, yeah.
Yeah, 6. And it has Jersey walls in it, and it has lanes where you can pull off. And this traffic just goes straight through and get out of Queen Anne's County. I mean, that's what we want. Will we get it? I don't know, because it's a lot of money. And when you think about it, where's the state going to put their money? We'll see. I mean, I question a lot of things going on with the quality of our roads that we don't, you know, that we don't take care of because they're not our roads, but it's an issue.
Well, to your point, Jimmy, about misinformation, one of the things that I see and hear a lot is that's just what we need is another bridge to dump more cars over here.
Right.
But I don't think people understand this is not just a new bridge. It's a replacement bridge.
Right.
For those of you that don't know, the first one was built in 1952. So that's 75 plus years now we're working on, right? Almost 75 plus years.
50-year life cycles.
50-year life cycle, we got a 75-year bridge. That shouldn't concern anybody. But the bigger thing is the corridor itself doesn't support it, right? And that's what everybody says, oh, there's not enough lanes. But this proposal is what they're calling corridor upgraded. It'll literally start at the 9750 where they come together there and extend all the way to the split, which will redesign all of that for what Jim's saying is to get people through. And I don't think the Woodrow Wilson's the best example. I think Northern Virginia is 66, what they did there out to Dulles and all, where you have throughway and then you have local access on the outside.
Right.
So if you want to get off, you're not
Right.
burdened by the people that are trying to just get through.
Yeah.
So I think that's the better solution. The state has the right of way in between the existing 50s to add those additional lanes for the corridor without encroaching on the outside edges. And again, I think in my mind that is the plan, but how far away are we from that, Jim, in a perfect world right now, though, honestly?
Well, phase 3 is engineering, which is approximately 3 years, and construction's 3 years. So you're looking at 8 years. 8 years. And look where we were 8 years ago. When I first started, I've always been on this bridge. I've always been on traffic as an issue when I first started. And we had that first year only two weekends with backups, only 2. And look how much has grown. And in 10 years, our census, our population has grown by 2,000. at the beaches, I can't tell you how much it's grown. Delaware has no stormwater control. They can build right up to the edge of the water. It's crazy. So, I mean, with all that goes on, and just like when we're talking about the 301 bypass through Delaware, that bypass, I used to drive to Delaware and meet a friend to come down from New Jersey, and I was lucky to see 4 or 5 cars in the whole trip, all the way up to Middletown. Now, it is unbelievable, the traffic, and we have counters. And maybe that's something we should do, Todd. We should get a report together.
I want to see the 301 since the Key Bridge, because I want to compare what that uptick is, because I guarantee you, I've seen more Jersey tags and everything now than I ever saw.
Massachusetts, New York.
Yeah, I mean, a whole.
So, you know, we need to start looking at that, because again, it's not our road. We're trying to fight the fight because it's our citizens, but we're not getting any help. And, you know, I think that that's something that we should do and be more vocal about it. So, I mean, that meeting's open to anybody that would like to come to that meeting tomorrow. We only meet every 3 months. And, you know, the panels, as you can see on the bridge, was a redesign. They had issues with the panels they were dropping in for the new deck, and they had to redesign it, so that meant we lost an entire month, because when the minute they redesign, they pour the panel, the deck panel, it's got to sit for 28 days to cure before they can drop it in place. They're starting to drop it in place now, but I'll find out tomorrow night exactly how that's going.
And I think a fair question for tomorrow night is the focus and concentration to get the Key Bridge built. Is that going to affect funding and time frame?
Right now, no, because the president has said they would pick up the tab. So as long as they hold true to that job is getting ready to go out right now for an award for design build. And once they start that, again, they're talking 3 to 5 years. They don't know. I mean, we'll see how things go.
How come they didn't have to do a NEPA study?
Yeah, they already said they don't.
Yeah.
They don't have to do a NEPA study.
That's pretty funny, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's where we sit, and, you know, we are doing what we can to alleviate the traffic. It is a royal pain for everybody, but, you know, that's the beach. So either pray for nasty weather or cold weather, and it all goes away. So, and with that.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thanks for
Thanks,
you
guys.
guys that are on assignment up there.
Go to bed, Chris.